on this podcast, we do an amazing job of speaking to creators, business owners, right? And even to the creators who need to evolve into business owners, right? And understanding different ways to monetize, understand different ways to handle scalability. But do we just have the art, the gift of art, or just the gift of business? And that the few percent, like 1 or 2%, understands how to do both. So once again, LL Cool J on the Wallow and Gilly podcast says something that he talked about old school hip hop artists and that their value is extremely unmeasurable, but some won't say that because they don't have the billions of dollars based off some of the decisions that they've made. And he also speaks about some of the decisions he's made and how he's evolved. So let's listen to that.
Like some people have the gift of business.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Some people have the gift of art.
Right.
Some people have other gifts.
Right.
So like just because somebody didn't monetize something doesn't mean they didn't want to.
Right.
It just means that maybe they missed a lick or didn't hit a thing or made a decision and it didn't go their way. You know, like we introduced Troop, the clothing line to the world.
Major.
You know what I'm saying? And you know, I wore Kangos. I didn't have a deal with Kango, but I wore Kangos and we popularized that, right?
Did you?
But then by the time I learned my lessons through Troop, I made money with Troop a little bit. It did well. But with Kango, obviously I didn't do anything. I still wear them though, not a problem. It's all love. But then by the time I got to FUBU, I learned my lesson, right? So when I, you know, helped Damon and them get on and help, you know, that whole thing happen, you know, I'm one of the owners of FUBU, right? So, you know, that you evolve.
So, Moose, this is my question for you. Okay. Even though this podcast is meant to understand how to evolve, right? And be that small percent that can do both, right? Based off some of the lessons, based off of our own experience, and then some of the experience from celebrities and influencers. Do you believe that some people just have the gift of business and can't do the art side? Or some people just have the gift of art and can't do the business side, right? Like, do you believe that? Like, what I realize is that as I'm thinking of past episodes, we really speak towards the person who has a creative mind and how to understand the business side. But we really don't speak on the business person getting into the art side. So are we trying to transform people into something and not vice versa?
That's a great point. I've never really thought about it that way in terms of how we, lay out the content that way. But definitely, I think that it's interesting because I feel that it's a more difficult switch to make. Mm-hmm. To go from business to art, I feel as though it's a little bit more difficult than it is to go from art to business. The reason why I say that is because art, there's almost this energy, this soul that comes to creativeness, right? Mm-hmm. Like and I notice it especially, and for those of you listening, think about any friends that you have that are musicians, specifically with that category of art, musicians. There's something about their energy that you can't learn that. You can't learn to sing. You can't learn to hear music. I forget who it is I came across on TikTok. Dude, he was on the Jimmy Fallon show. Dude made a whole song using a coffee mug and a teaspoon and just made these sounds, found the soundboard and fire. And I'm just saying, this is the kind of stuff that make me want to just like, I don't know, go get a rain check on my gift or something. Like, can I return this? Can I exchange my gift for this right here? Because that's fire.
All right.
So it's so difficult to make the transition from business to art because art can't be taught. Business, and I'm a business guy saying this, business can be taught. There's enough best practices from business that if you dedicate enough time to it, you can pick up on. And if you don't do that, your mistakes will eventually teach you. I mean, that's kind of what you see with LL Cool J there saying, hey, could I have made money? Yeah, but it's not that I didn't want to. I kind of just didn't know how to. However, as I progressed along and dropped the ball in a few areas, I got to a point with Fubo where I'm an owner there. So that's how I see it on as it relates to that switch up and the vice versa. The vice versa is a little bit hard to handle. I don't know that it comes as easy.
So here's where I disagree a little bit because I believe everything can be taught. Now, you may be thinking more from a standpoint of the ones that we see are like naturally creative, right? And so to think of the creative side, you instantly think of those who are naturally that I can't ever get on that level. But to say I can't teach you how to be creative in this certain field, whether it is from a music standpoint, an acting standpoint, a drawing standpoint, a content standpoint. It's to say that you can't. I mean, we've seen rappers turn actors. We've seen athletes turn rappers. We've seen multiple different things to where they may not be the best. And same to where we look at creators turning into the business side. They may not be the best because naturally they are not on the business side. But you learn the foundation to stay afloat. Right now, this is where the real battle of, do you need to learn the creative side in life? Or do you need to learn the business side? Maybe that's a whole different conversation. I'm not even going to open that chapter up, right? I'm not. Because I feel like that's a strong battle. But I look at it in creators are going to have to be able to, one, be taken serious, and two, to scale. There does need to be some type of foundation to be learned about business, right? Eventually, speaking for me, I would just like somebody to just take care of that. Let me be the creator because I can think on a certain creative level that you can't. And then you be the business side because I can't think of some of the ins and outs and legal jargons and contracts and negotiation. That drains me. I make ends meet with that, but that drains me, right? And so it goes to, I do believe that there is a small percentage that can do both in a high level. You feel me?
Let me ask you this, though. Do you think that business people really learn the art, or they just learn to value the part of the creative?
I think both.
I think
both.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so I had this conversation, was it yesterday? I believe, no, the day before, where, there's always that person, especially more on those who are in the business side. I was speaking to a CPA, and she was like, I'm not creative. I was like, there's levels to creativity, right? It's about recognizing the level that you're in and not seeking to be something further than that you're not. Just because you see other creators. The social media has allowed us to mess with put respect on our level of creativity, right? So she's like, that makes sense. I was like, you probably have a level of creativity within the business world that you just see creativity as the art situation. But to think of different ideas of how to save certain people money and then executing on it is still creativity to me. That's to me. Because I can't think of those ideas. Where did those ideas come from? Comes from your mind of thinking of different things that weren't possible before. You made it into a certain situation, and now look at where it's at. So I do believe that business people, just because it's not in a art form, visual form, that kind of way of what we deem as art, I do believe ideas is still a gift of art, right? So I think everybody has that level, that gift of creativity. I don't know if everybody has that gift of business.
Yeah, I could see that. Because I know business is there's a lot of almost tactical warfare that goes on that shouldn't feel difficult or offensive, although it comes off as such. All right. So I know sometimes, and this is still happening in our communities, by the way. That's why I forget who I was listening to. I think it was Rich Paul in that interview with Rap Radar, where he talks about people from the community still have not found the way to do business together without taking it personal or feeling as though it's an attack. It's just that you bring that same kind of level-headed approach and recognize that that's how it's being done, and that's okay. So I think that's why business is more difficult to learn, because it does require you to almost tune out your emotions completely. And when you think about what are one of the pieces that make creatives or the artist how they are and what makes them so successful, is that they're probably hyper intuitive to their emotions.
Right.
So now you're telling them, okay, the thing that made you very, very, very successful in this thing, yeah, just go ahead and completely shut that out so you can win on this side. That's a tough thing to do. That's why I was saying maybe it's not so much that they learn to do it, meaning from business going to the creative or to the art, but you see the value and you recognize the value and the importance of it. I know that's what I've done. You know, when I think about it, even in the space of content, I don't know that I have just woke up one day and I have a love for content creation, or I have a newfound gift in being able to create content. But what happened was I started to see the value in having a voice, in controlling your narrative, in building relationships with a great group of people or a big group of people. And the value of those things combined made me buy into and want to invest more time and to become better at content. So it was more of a logical convincing that I did to myself to say, oh, you see, and because of this reason and that reason and that reason, you need to invest time to become better at it or just value it a little bit more. Right. So I think what you value, you somehow start to get better at just because you put more emphasis on it.
That's a fact. Listen, people, what gift do you have? Let us know. If you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere, what gift do you have? If you're listening to this, tweet us on the platform that Elon used to run. You feel me?
He's no longer the CEO of.
I mean, just tweet us.